Streaming live via the internet, welcome to ISP Radio, your weekly source for ISP-related news, events, and interviews with industry experts. If you deliver internet via fiber optic, fixed wireless, coax, or any other way, you're in the right place. And now a brief word from our sponsors. Link Technologies Incorporated provides the lowest priced Microtech products in North America, as well as Wade Towers, Mimosa, Cambium, Ubiquity, Nettonics, and a host of other products and services to be your one-stop shop for your ISP needs. Visit www.linktechs.net. That's LINKTECHS.net for more information. TowerCoverage.com, providing online RF coverage maps with website integration. Stop rolling your trucks for every site survey and start doing installations. Visit www.towercoverage.com now. And now we'd like to present our hosts, Steve Grabiel and Dennis Burgess.
Welcome to ISP Radio. I'm your host, Steve Grabiel, broadcasting from Moriarty, New Mexico at my office, and Dennis is producing and co-hosting the show from St. Louis. Well, out here it's kind of chilly. Went from mid-80s last week to 65 today, so kind of a shock to the system. Thank goodness I got my furnace all ready to go. Not much going on out here, kind of real slow, but I like it like that. Dennis, how's it going out in your neck of the woods?
Oh, we're keeping busy over here. Lots of work, lots of things going on, lots of hardware going in and out, just like any other day for the most part. The big thing I'd like to remind all of our listeners is that we actually have another show next week. Today's the 27th, and the 4th, it looks like we have PSEAMS is going to talk about their new QoE service. Not sure what all that is about, but that should be interesting. We also have a show on the 25th with Bridgewave as well. Keep in mind, Wispapalooza is right around the corner. Very, very important to note. It is coming up not next week, but the week after. You should have already purchased your ticket, I hope. But it is right around the corner. For those of you that don't know, Wispapalooza is definitely the industry event. We've posted this on several other Facebook pages that we normally don't, so that's why I'm telling you this. October 9th through the 13th is that event. Definitely right around the corner, less than 2 weeks away. Excellent show. There's going to be probably every vendor that you ever want to talk to will be there, etc. So you definitely need to attend that as well. Now, on the news front, we actually have a little bit of news from WISPA. So WISPA has announced that there is a fixed wireless broadband industry report that is going to be released. And you can actually go to wispa.org and you actually download that report actually right now. But basically, they're saying that the broadband industry is projected to nearly double within the next 5 years. And it definitely is the most cost-effective solution, fixed wireless is, for underserved areas. Now, you can go download that report. This report was created by the Carmel Group, which we have already reached out to and see if we can get them on the show. But definitely really, really good stuff that is going on in the industry. And this is the very first report that has been made public that literally augments and says to investors and to industry people or people that are interested in getting in the industry, it gets that data out to them so that they know how the financials are. How is the industry growing? How is it competing with fiber, and how is it competing with mobile wireless? So definitely a really good thing. That was really, really good that they released that. That has been coming for some time, but that has been released, and you can download that right on their website as needed.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's,
I mean,
like I said, a long time coming, and you guys could utilize that in your business plans for when you're seeking additional resources, financial resources that will point to how well this industry's progressing along.
Right. And just so everybody knows, I mean, this was a paid report. They used sponsors to sponsor that. WISPA sponsored it. I'm just going to list off these guys because they're pioneers in the industry to get this type of data correct. All Points Broadband, Amplex, AtLink Services, Cambium Networks, Comlink Internet Services, Huawei, Hudson Valley Wireless, Mimosa, RF Elements, Rise Broadband, SafeLink, SpeedConnect, Telrad, Transworld Network, Viasat, WCIA, WISPA, Whisper, ISP, and ZTE all were sponsors of getting this report created for the industry. And now that this report is out, it should be really, really good, etc. I mean, again, that's really the big thing, is that if you are looking for investors and they have never invested in the fixed wireless industry, there has to be some type of report or something that they have to have that is an independent party that you can actually sit there and rely on to know what this industry is. And that's exactly what this is. Gives you growth forecasts, 7 keys to growth drivers, all this kind of stuff, and it goes into a lot of detail on this. Really good stuff. I invite you to go to wispa.org and download that report and review it, just so you know where the industry is growing or going in that particular instance. So, really good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else out on the horizon other than what you mentioned?
We have actually taken quite a few calls on this, and that's a good thing. So Microtech has released their new 60 gigahertz radios, and everybody's like, well, when are we going to get them? When are we going to get them? Well, that's a key. Right now, they have released pricing, and that pricing is $199 a pair. So a pair of 60 gigahertz radios for $200. The problem is that they are going to do an initial batch, in which case they need pre-purchases to report back on issues, things like that. So we have the product on our website, and I'm going to put that up right now. Here we go. Maybe. There we go. This is the WAP 6080 kit, 1 gig full duplex without cables. It comes as a AES encrypted preset pair. So you buy the pair, you put them up. As long as they can see each other, they'll connect, and you have a full gigabit throughput. I did want to note that they will rate shift. So if you are a little bit further out than where their recommended specs are, then they will still downshift, but eventually they'll drop out. The big thing here is that these are $198, and we are taking pre-orders. More pre-orders we get, more radios we get. So the ideal here is that Link Technologies, of course, we can help you with your hardware. We can help you with support. We can help you with network consulting, network design, all that kind of good stuff. But we also need your help in getting these 60 gig kits in, so that we can get enough for everybody to test them out. And then whenever full production ramps up later on in the year, we will get those products as well. So definitely really good stuff out there. The other question that we do get a lot is, what is the distance on these? They are claiming that these are 100 meters is a full 1 gig full duplex. They can go further. However, they will demodulate down to some type of extent. They are licensed light, so you do need to have a 60 gigahertz FCC license, as well as you need to license them. But other than that, they're really good. Really good. Now they are going to come out with a LHG 60, which is their Lighthead Grid version of the 60 gigahertz, and that will have significantly more gain to go a little bit further. But for 198, you really can't really go wrong with that, if that makes sense. So
no, you can afford it to just try it out.
Right. And to be honest with you, we actually have a tower right next to our office. And we're actually we have a very small link. It's an SXTG link. It gets a couple hundred meg, but we actually had that link between the two, and we're actually going to toss them up in place. We're going to leave our 5 gigahertz link, but we're actually going to toss these up and try them out. And it's about 230 meters or so. So it should be interesting to see how that works and see if we can get a gigabit to the tower. So really good stuff.
Yeah.
We'll have to see how it all works out in the end. But we'll see how it all works out in the end. I mean, that's all we can do. But I'm just telling everybody, $198. You can pre-order them, and as soon as we get them, we'll ship them out without any problem.
Cool. Well, speaking of millimeter wave, we've got the gurus of millimeter wave as a guest today. Today we have Bridgewave, and they are in that realm as well as
Yes,
microwave.
they are. Yeah.
And we have the product manager, Hesham El-Adly. I hope I got that right, Hesham. Are you there?
Yeah, that's perfect, actually.
Excellent. So tell us a little bit about Bridgewave, where you've been, where you're going, and a little bit about yourself as well.
Sure. So I'm Hesham El-Adly. I'm the product technical manager for Remic and Bridgewave Communications. Bridgewave is a part of Remic Broadband Wireless. Remic is a company that's been designing and building microwave and millimeter wave systems for a long time, mostly to OEM customers. And at Remic, we have over 1 million radios so far deployed around the world in microwave and millimeter wave. And Bridgewave is one of our groups. So I'm calling right now, actually, from my basement, a secure location. My neighbor's doing I think it's a 20-year renovation project, and they're near 2 right now. So I'm trying to, I try to find a quiet place away from them. So we're really happy to talk about the new product that Bridgewave is launching. This is a true, high capacity, super high capacity, true fiber replacement 80 gigahertz radio. At Bridgewave, historically, Bridgewave has developed, I would say, the highest performance products and highest feature products in the marketplace, and mostly targeted to enterprise and to carriers. And the one thing that I would say that Bridgewave didn't really address is the lower cost marketplace. Our products were always cutting edge, but they're also higher priced, and that's something we're addressing not just with this product, but actually across the line of products, as you'll see. So we're really quite excited by this. Bridgewave has been around since 1999. It's the pioneer in millimeter wave, and we'll continue to be pushing technology, as you will see. So in terms of WISPs, what we kind of see, and perhaps as a customer of an ISP, I'm probably the worst case customer. I use typically several hundred gigabytes per month in terms of bandwidth, and there's some months where I've gone over a terabyte per month, and that's because everything I do is in the cloud. And so, bandwidth growth has been dramatic based on both people moving their lives into the cloud, into the wireless space, and also by all these new streaming services like Netflix or CBS or HBO Now, for example. And so there's been a real huge drive in traffic compared to I think what even we were expecting and others were suspecting. And we know there's been a lot of challenges for WISPs. This includes churning of subscribers and increasing average revenue per user, and certainly controlling costs. Controlling costs has always been an issue and continues to be an issue. Not just controlling operating costs, but capital costs. And so when we develop products, we work closely with our customers. We look at kind of what's going on moving forward, and we try to develop products that make sense and take that feedback from our customers. I think the other issue for WISPs is that there's also some other alternatives right now, especially for rural WISPs, such as satellite internet. There's DSL, and of course your competitors in the WISP space also. So for backhauling high capacity, Traditionally, and probably the only backhaul technology that most people use for multi-gigabit is really fiber. And so fiber, you have two choices really for fiber. You can either put in new fiber or you can lease fiber, and they both carry a lot of cost. If it's new fiber, there's a high capital cost. There's a lot of time required as well to lay in new fiber, and sometimes it's not even possible to lay in new fiber. If it's leased fiber, there can be a high operating cost, and also it can take a long time to get provisioning in a leased fiber network as well. Plus, you don't own that network. You're kind of encumbered by whoever you decided to partner with at the time. And so as a backhaul option for multi-gigabit, we have launched the Flex4G 10,000 product, our brand new 10 gigabit per second radio. And this is a low capital cost radio. And at the end of this presentation, I'll actually show you some details on a promotion we're running right now till the end of the year for principal members of WISPA. We're targeting this product not only to have the performances and the features that any customer could desire, whether you're an enterprise or a carrier or a WISP, but also having a cost base that is really appealing, if I can say. The Flex4G 10,000 is an 80 gigahertz radio, so it's slightly licensed in the US. That's a $75 license in the US. Except in the quiet zones. The quiet zones are regions close to Canada or Mexico where the license is about $300. And I think there's a few corridors in the States as well, around New York City, Connecticut, and a couple other places too where there's this quiet license requirement. The product itself, the 10,000, compared to fiber, can be deployed very, very quickly. Since it's lightly licensed, there's a lot of spectrum available. In 80 gigahertz, it's a pencil beam, so it's a very narrow beam. So there's a lot of frequency reuse. You could use the same frequencies, back to back, pretty much, and even within the same tower, if you just turn the dishes a bit. And certainly with the 10,000, this could be owned or would be owned by the WISP versus leasing someone else's equipment. So here's an overview of the current products, of some of the current products offered by Bridgewave Communications. So in 80 gigahertz, we have a full line of products. We have the Flex4G 1000, which is a 1 gigabit per second radio. Then the Flex4G Lite, which is a 3 gigabit per second radio, and of course the Flex4G 10,000 at 10 gigabits. All three products are full-featured radios, high performance radios. When I mention capacity for any of our products, it's always full duplex. And so if I mention 3 gigs capacity, it's 3 gigabits up and 3 gigabits down as well at the same time. There's no time division here. So the Flex4G 1000 and the Lite, they're both, as I mentioned, full featured products. Very low power consumption on these products, 32 watts maximum. High connectivity. There's multiple fiber strands available on these products, as well as the 10,000. And even though they're lower capacity, they are designed for carriers. These are deployed and really designed for carrier applications. And the nice thing about carriers is that carriers drive quality for all customers. And so when we sell and we have products with carriers, they push us to be better. They push us not just better in terms of performance or features, but better in terms of quality of product. Having products that are reliable, have products that can operate for many, many years in real-world situations and in real-world networks as well. So 80 gigahertz, we have these three products. We also have a 60 gigahertz product called the BW64. So this is available with either an integrated 10-inch dish or with an external 24-inch dish, and that's unique in the industry, having 60 gigahertz with external dish. The external dish can give you that distance. So BW64 is the highest power product at 60 gigahertz. in the commercial space. You can actually run in 60 gigahertz with this product a half mile or so, depending on your rain region, maybe even a little bit more, depending on, if it's a drier region as well. And typically 60 gigahertz is limited to like 100 meters or a couple hundred meters, and we can go much further with this product. And this is a true 1 gigabit per second radio as well, so 1 gig up and 1 gig down. And just as a bit of a tease, at Remic, I mentioned that we've shipped over 1 million radios in microwave, millimeter wave over the years, and we have invested heavily in a new technology along with the Flex4G 10,000. This is a new microwave radio, all outdoor radio, which we're going to be announcing. So this is, I guess, a pre-announcement, but we're going to be announcing this product in about a week or so, and we're going to be showing it also at Wispapalooza in a couple of weeks. So you can drop by our booth, and we'll show you this new radio. And this is an exciting new product, very high performance microwave, but at the same time low cost as well. And we can do that because we're not using other people's chips. We are fully vertical in terms of our design. We've designed our own ASICs, and so by doing that, we can kind of get away from copying or having product that can be copied by others, and we can kind of chart our own course, and also not be again tied to chartered IC companies as well. So we're very excited by that, and I'm actually going to be back here if these hosts will have me again in a few weeks to talk about that product.
Yeah, we have you scheduled. Let me check our schedule here. If you go to ispradio.com, you can see our radio schedule there, but it is October 25th, so about a month away that we're going to have you on, and that is for the low-cost carrier class microwave, licensed microwave that changes everything. So this is the pre-release for the pre-release to the actual show.
And we'll actually be able to touch this thing at the Wispapalooza, correct?
Not just touch it, but I'll also open one up so you can see inside.
Oh, neat, cool.
Yeah, there's some technology we've launched with this product to improve, let's say, the customer experience, because in microwave, millimeter wave, like the 10,000, a single radio covers a complete frequency band of operation, and so it's easy to spare and easy to use, like a product like 80 gigahertz radios. But in microwave, it's a bit more complex. There's all these frequencies, all these subbands, and so we have some technology to help free customers, and I'll talk more about that in a few weeks.
Okay.
Cool.
So in a WISP network, when you're looking at gigabit backhaul, you don't really, as I mentioned, have a lot of opportunities for solutions. You have fiber. You do have microwave, but microwave has been typically limited to below 1 gigabit per second, but that's going to change with our new product announcement as well. And then you have products like the Flex4G 10,000, which are unique, having products which can go up close to 10 gigabits per second. And so we see Flex4G 10,000 operating in multiple parts of the WISP network. It could be part of the backhaul network and could form the ring to bring high capacity traffic. Of course, it's 80 gigahertz, so in 80 gigahertz you're limited by oxygen absorption, and so depending on your rain region, you might get 1 mile to 2 miles. Let's say if you're targeting 4 nines or 5 nines availability. If you're targeting less availability, you can certainly go longer and much longer, and we do have some technologies even beyond adaptive modulation to drive longer distances, but we typically recommend sticking with 4 nines and 5 nines availability. These are professional products, and we want our customers to have excellent experiences with these products.
Yeah, set the expectation.
Yeah, because in we have a link calculator, and we also provide path loss files to customers who have path loss, and you could run radios, and you could claim 3 nines availability and suggest something like it'll be an hour or 2 hours a year of non-service, but that doesn't really fly in real life. If you're in a region where you have storm cells moving in constantly, or it's not like losing service for 1 hour a year for one event. It might be once a week for a few seconds or for a few minutes.
Yeah,
or it could be, it could be over a period of time in the summer where you have constantly lose service for a few minutes at a time. And that's not really acceptable. I think you got to really plan out your network for your situation. And we don't really recommend going below 4 nines. And some customers will insist on 5 nines, and we certainly support that.
And just so everybody knows, I mean, we kind of talked about this a few weeks ago about 4 nines and 5 nines, and I just tossed up a screenshot. This is how much downtime per year you get with 5 nines, and if you have 5 nines, you have 5.26 minutes of downtime a year. But when you drop down to 4, it jumps up to almost an hour, 52 minutes per year. And then once you go to 3 nines, it's 8.76 hours per year. So it actually jumps up quite a bit, and I just want to make sure I point that out to everybody that, if Bridgewave supports and recommends at least 4, if not 5 nines, we need to know what we're talking about in those cases.
Yeah, exactly. And you could decide also on what parts of your network are more critical than other parts. But again, we don't really recommend going below 4 nines. So you can use the FlexRG 10,000 both as the main backhaul network if you're looking at that kind of capacity. Then you have customers like myself who are extreme hoarders of data, and so you could also use this type of product for last couple of miles as well, to both enterprise subscribers and hoarders like myself, of course. Mm-hmm. So the radio itself does a full duplex 9.7 gigabits per second in a 1+0 configuration. It also supports 2+0, and so we do offer OMTs as well. So when radios are purchased from Bridgewave, we sell radios as links. So links including antennas as well. The radios, this radio operates at 2 gigahertz bandwidth, 1 gigahertz bandwidth, or 500 megahertz bandwidth. And so there's 3 bandwidth choices, and you can decide where you want to play. And later on, I'll show you a little bit of a chart. The wider the bandwidth, the lower the modulation you need to operate in to get a certain capacity. And so if you have spectrum available, and most likely you will in the US at 80 gigahertz, you probably want to stick with 2 gigahertz bandwidth, because then you could operate at lower modulations. And so if you're looking for a 5 gigabit per second radio at 2000 megahertz bandwidth, that's only 16 QAM. 16 QAM means you're driving higher TX power and better thresholds, which will get you to that 4 nines, 5 nines availability. The radio can operate from QPSK all the way to 256 QAM as well, so it's a modern radio in terms of modulation support, and it does have ACM, adaptive coding modulation, and also automatic transmit power control built into it to fight against fade conditions. Plus, there's an ability which I don't talk about in this presentation, but it's called adapt path, and that's an ability for the radio to use a secondary backup link when there's extreme weather conditions. So the secondary backup link might be, for example, an unlicensed 5.8 gig radio. And when a fade condition occurs, the radio is going to automatically step between different modulations to try to keep up capacity. But at a certain point, and this is settable by the user, you can choose for the radio to transmit or to transfer traffic based on quality of service to a secondary link, like the 5.8 gigahertz link. And then when fade conditions improve, the radio will take that traffic back again. And so this is an ability we've had for actually a long time. We've had it for over 10 years. And we find that it can be very useful to some customers who are kind of pushing on distance. Let me continue.
So I was just going to hop in there. So when we look at those fade conditions, we were talking about this again several weeks ago on the radio show, where we had the AirFiber version 4 software just came out, and they just now added the ability to do that, to be able to say, hey, once your modulation hits 150 meg or 200 meg, I want you to drop. Okay. Now you guys have had that for 10 years, and we've used it before in several customers. I do know that some of your systems you just use a second Ethernet port to offload that traffic. Do you offer the 5 gig radio, or do you integrate it, or is that still a separate add-on?
So we don't offer the radio because it's a different technology, but you can use an assortment of different third-party radios.
Yeah, so it's just an Ethernet port in that case.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So what we do is we define a port or ports. You define a quality of service class, and then we automatically move traffic over and then back again.
Yeah.
And in fact, one interesting application is you could have Flex4G 10,000 radio as the primary, and the backup could also be a licensed microwave as well. It doesn't have to be an unlicensed radio.
Yeah, it's just an Ethernet port, and whatever is bridged together, it'll work.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Yep.
Exactly.
Alrighty.
So here's the radio with the cap on. Soon I'll show you the radio with its underwear off. It's a full featured. It has a full featured switch in the radio, and we've actually had basically the same feature set on these radios for many years. These just get more mature over time, and that's because we've been working with carriers, and they just push us. So it's advanced Ethernet features. It has a lot of protection features like ring protection, for example, which is a cheaper way of doing protection than doing 1+1, for example. There's built-in timing support if that's needed for an application. Here's a big one, AES encryption. So AES encryption is really quite rare in multi-gigabit radios. So you'll find it in sub 1 gigabit radios quite commonly now. And then when you get up to 3 gigabit per second radios, it's less common, but you can find it in radios like we offer. And then at 10 gigabits is extremely rare, and that's because AES encryption has a heavy computational load on it. And so to do AES encryption with high capacity, you really have to have a dedicated engine, and that engine can be quite expensive. Our core in this, for that encryption engine is FPGA based. We have enough capacity, in fact, in that core to support the complete radio payload with AES encryption enabled. And of course, it's FIPS compliant as well. The network management, fully carrier grade. So hopefully you guys won't get tired of me saying carrier all the time. Carrier is just another word for full featured. So we support features like Radius, which is security feature, and syslog, and of course we have MIBs available if you want to use an external NMS to control the radio. And all our products support PoE as well as direct DC input. So power over Ethernet and direct DC input, and actually both can be used at the same time. So if you wanted to protect your power supply, you could come in with PoE, and you can also come in with direct DC, and then the radio just chooses what has the higher voltage.
So what voltage PoE? You said this is about a 32-watt device?
No, the 32-watt devices are the Flex4G 1000 and the Flex4G Lite product. This product is a bit more. This is 73 watts.
Okay.
And so it's a proprietary PoE solution.
All right. But how many volts?
Oh, it's we have two options. We have an AC supply version of a PoE, so you provide AC power and out comes DC on the injected Ethernet cable, and then we also have a direct DC version as well. But most customers go with the AC version.
Well, yeah, but I mean, for a solar application, how many for designing? What should I look for? How many volts do I need to put out?
If it's going to be using a direct DC, to be 48 volts. If it's using AC, then we have the conversion built in.
Gotcha. So 48 volts DC.
Yeah.
Cool.
So The product itself has a lot of connectivity in it. It has 5 gigabit Ethernet interfaces in it. There's 3 SFPs. One of them is a 10 gig SFP, so a single cable can carry all the traffic of the radio, and that's something we found to be really critical when you go over 5 gigabits per second. In the past, actually for most, you'd have to use multiple 1 gig lines, and that's a lot of cables. It also creates networking issues. If you're running VLANs, for example, it just becomes a more complicated network connection. Having a 10 gig cable really frees up and makes it much easier to deploy the radios as well. The other 2 SFPs support 2.5 gig. So if you're using 2.5 gig fiber, it's there. And of course, there's 1 gig fiber as well. We do have RJ45, so RJ45 would be a power over Ethernet port. You can also use it for traffic or for management as well. And then for legacy customers, there's a TDM interface. And so if you have an older network and you want to carry TDM traffic or mix TDM traffic and Ethernet, we have a TDM interface in the product. TDM can be carried at the same time as Ethernet. And then there's also a SIPRI interface. So SIPRI is used in some applications. This is a very low latency SIPRI application. So SIPRI, for it to actually be functional, to be useful, it really needs to be low latency. And so we've done a lot of work with carriers again to deliver a very low latency SIPRI solution.
Do these come loaded with lasers, or you got to bring our own?
So the SFPs, so the units themselves use small form factor pluggable, have plugins. So we have the ports there, and then the plugins need to be purchased separately, typically. And the reason for that is that we don't really know if you need a 10 gig SFP or 2.5 gig SFP. We don't know if you want a multi-mode or a single mode SFP. Also, there's SFPs which operate with different distances as well. So we don't really know what a customer wants, so we can't preload. But if when a customer orders a radio or a link, they can choose from a selection of SFPs, and the units will be delivered with those.
Gotcha.
So here's the radio with the cap removed, and the radio's been designed for easy access and installation. And so when it's mounted on a tower, you remove the cap, and then you can see inside the radio. All the cables actually come in through the 1-inch conduit at the bottom. So the conduit is run, from the radio to a shed or to a junction box, and instead of having like multiple glands for each interface, you just pass everything through this 1-inch conduit. There's also a 3/4-inch conduit, a smaller one, available to interconnect 2 radios on a tower, or if you're using less cabling, you could certainly use it. All the connections come in and just plug in to different ports. And so you have a series of SFP ports for Ethernet, SIPRI and TDM. You have the RJ45s as well. There are indicator lights everywhere as well. So when an operator, or actually when a technician is installing the radio, they don't have to really guess if they made a proper connection. Once they plug in cables, you'll start seeing lights on the units start to display and indicate that you have a good connection. And so we wanted the radio to have easy access to the inside, easy access for the installers as well, to know exactly what's kind of going on with the radio. This particular picture, this is a radio that's taken out of a box. So there's some copper foil over the tabs at the ends, at the 4 corners. That's actually the antenna mounting points. So I don't think I'll go over all these numbers. But if you're trying to achieve the full capacity of the radio, which is 9.7 gigabits per second, that's 128 QAM at 2000 megahertz. You'll be operating with a link budget of either 145 dB or 159 dB, depending on your antenna size. But you may not want to operate you may not need 9.7 gigabits. You might want to operate at 5 gigabits per second, for example. And you can choose to operate at 1 gig bandwidth or 2 gig bandwidth. You can choose where you want to play to give you the system gain needed to maintain a link at the 4 nines or 5 nines availability that you desire. So the radio itself has very high transmit power, excellent thresholds, but you really do want to play at the wider bandwidths if you're trying to get the highest system gain. So even if you're going at a lower capacity number, you want to play at the higher system gain values just to get the most reliable link that's possible. The radio is going to move between modulations during ACM, during a fade condition. Everything's programmable, so you can decide when you want to switch, and also if you want to switch from ACM to adapt path mode as well, where you go to the secondary backup link. So, in terms of benefits to customers, compared to fiber, there's much lower capital costs. The equipment itself is quite inexpensive compared to laying out fiber. Fiber is very expensive to lay out, as your customers as customers know. Leasing can be extremely expensive as well. So whether you pay upfront or you pay over time, fiber carries a very high cost to lease. Plus, you have that time to provision as well. And so, a product like the 80 gigahertz Flex4G 10,000, it's lightly licensed. The license, you can either get your own license or we can provide the license. So we do have a nationwide license available for Bridgewave that we can provide if you're looking for that. So all you need to do is to register the radio with your agency, with ComSearch or whoever is your agency, and then you can deploy the radio. So the radio itself can be deployed whether it's on a tower or on a roof or on the side of a building. It doesn't require a lot of planning to deploy the radio because you don't really have interference issues generally. The beam is so tight that you don't have to worry about interference typically. And also, even though the beam is tight, the distances are still 1 or 2 miles typically, so they're not that far compared to microwave. So even though you have a tight beam, they're still not necessarily that difficult to install. I would suggest not installing them typically on a monopole. So with 80 gigahertz, and if you're using like a 2-foot dish, the beam angle is only about 0.4 degrees. If you're using 1-foot dish, the beam angle doubles. So on a monopole, if you're using a big dish, the monopole itself can be adversely affected by solar expansion. And so imagine a monopole, sun comes up, one side of the monopole gets heated up, and then the whole monopole sways. And that can hit you, by several dB of fade pretty quickly. And so if you're using a big dish, that could be a problem. So we wouldn't recommend that. Anyway, I can get into a lot of discussions about monopoles, one of my favorite subjects. In terms of the network planning, the radio itself is very flexible in terms of its capability. So it has a built-in switch, a full-featured switch, high-capacity switch in it. Plus, you have that 10 gigabit line. So instead of having a lot of cables, you can just have one cable going up to the radio to bring in your traffic. So that simplifies things dramatically. And of course, the radio itself, if it's planned properly, will be very, very reliable. And we do have a lot of experience with long-term networks.
Yeah, so just so everybody knows, we do Link Technologies. We do sell a hybrid cable, and I believe it has two pair of fibers, two Cat5s, and a power lead. And we actually use them for a lot of our base cells installations, because by the time we put a base cells up and we need Ethernet cable and we need power cable and stuff like that, it's cheaper to do the hybrid cable than it is to do the individual cables ran up, but it's all outdoor grade, and this would actually be a really good fit for this because you have a 10 gig fiber, a single mode fiber pair that you can run up to the tower. You have an Ethernet in there so you can power the radio, and then you also have power cables so that you can actually use 2 power supplies and have and get your uptime. So definitely a good idea to do that as well.
Yeah, that sounds like an excellent solution. Hybrid cables are another way to reduce costs because everything you put up a tower has a cost to it, whether it's a cost in terms of initial cost or whether it's a cost to lease the space for that equipment or even those cables. Having one cable run up will save cost.
Oh, yeah.
So the radio, it's a true fiber replacement, and that's because of its capacity and its feature set. It's relatively easy to install and maintain as well. You just basically put it up, and you'll get your 10 gigabit link. Much lower cost than fiber in backhaul applications. Whether you're going across a road or going further, and we do have very good customer support. So Bridgewave, we've been around for a long time. We have a lot of experience with installations, also with long-term operation of radios in millimeter wave. We have, with every radio, we have a 1-year warranty with the radios, which gives access to a telephone support line, which is manned during normal hours. And we also have 24/7 support as well, which is optional, so customers can call us. And even after that 1-year warranty is over, if a customer calls us, we'll answer and we'll help the customer out on that call. We really want our customers to be successful, not just when they buy the equipment, but also long term afterwards as well. So one of the things we're doing, so the product, at the beginning, I kind of mentioned that Bridgewave has traditionally sold to enterprises and carriers, and that our products, although they were high performance products and full-featured products, they may have been overly priced for some customers. And what we've done with our technology in all our new radios actually is we've driven down costs either through technical advancement, either through manufacturing process. Remic, with 1 million radios delivered, we have a lot of experience with manufacturing. We know how to drive cost. We know how to drive quality up at the same time as driving that cost down. And we've brought that knowledge into the 10,000 product, as well as in the new microwave product that I'll talk about in a few weeks here. So one of our promotions, our current promotion, is through the end of the year, is offering this radio, the FlexVG 10,000, at 10 gigabits, that's full capacity, for $9,500, and that's including 12-inch dishes, or at $9,900 with a 24-inch dish. And that's for a full length, that's 2 radios. So we're offering this radio at a cost or at a price that's actually lower cost than some of our competitors at 5 gigabits per second or even 3 gigabits per second. You can get a 10 gigabit per second Bridgewave radio. So we're really excited by this. This is us calling out to our friends in WISP that this radio is available, and we'll be showing it at WISPapalooza as well. So in the beginning of October, we'll be there with the radio, as well as with the new microwave radio also.
There you go. And I believe we also, Link Technologies, we also do the Bridgewave products as well. I don't know if they are on our website or not, but I do know that we do sell them on occasion. So, of course, you can give us a call, etc. But is there so you just want them to contact your authorized distributors and go from there?
Yeah, they can contact our marketing department or contact one of our resellers. You need to be a member of WISPA, but I think most customers will be already members. We've started shipping these radios actually already to customers, and they're in trial also with some carriers. They're ready to go.
There you go. Excellent. Well, I think that's a really great product for the money. I do know several customers that I'll be sending this flyer to inform them that, hey, we have these and we can ship them. But basically, a 10 gig link, licensed light. And if I'm not mistaken, the licensed light, basically it's a $500 nationwide license for you to get, basically say that you're an 80 gigahertz player. In other words, you can then license 80 gigahertz links, and then you just have to fill out the form with the FCC, and usually it's like 24 to 48 hours. Once they accept your GPS locations, then they give you your channels.
Yeah, I think the license cost might be a little bit lower. I believe it's only $75 for that license.
Well, I let me rephrase this. It's $500 for your nationwide license, and then each individual radio it's $75 for a 10-year license. So it's basically $7.50 a year.
Yeah, it's almost free actually in terms of licensing costs. This is one of the great things about millimeter wave, is that it's easy to get into, and you're not burdened by a recurring cost that's very high.
Right.
So $75 per the license is what, the $500 for the nation, and then $75 per link.
Correct.
That's not too unreasonable.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I thought.
Yeah, and the only places where it's a bit higher is the quiet zones, as I mentioned. So quiet zones are near the border of Canada and the border with the U.S. With Mexico. So
can you kind of explain what the quiet zones are? Are they places where there's more congestion, or what's the deal with the quiet zone?
It's not necessarily congestion. It's near the borders. It's just because it's near a border. And so they have to so the rules are a little bit more stringent. There are some quiet zones in other places like in New York State. There's some quiet zones in Connecticut, and I think there's some other ones around the U.S. So they're probably based around congestion, but I don't really know why they'd be quiet zones within the U.S. And not just at the borders.
You had mentioned a tool on your website about link calculator and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Do you have time to maybe show us that? Because I'm sure there'd be a lot of people interested in this and being able to poke around themselves to see if it would be feasible for them to do it themselves.
Sure. Let me just bring it up. And so, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the link calculator from Bridgewave, and we offer this as well as path loss files for most of our radios. And it's a pretty easy tool. You basically go into the tool, you choose your unit to measure, whether it's metric or miles, imperial, and then you choose either for distance. You can either enter distance or you can enter your coordinates. And so here, for distance, let's say we'll do 1.25 miles. For location, I had put in Boulder, but you can put in any location. So you can go dry or wet. I'll keep it for Boulder for now. And then you go down and you select your radio. So this is a Flex for G10000. You can see we have all our other radios as well. So we have a lot of product. And you can actually, do different experiments too with different types of radios and see what you'll achieve. We'll go for 9.7 gigabits per second, so the highest performance of the radio in terms of capacity, and we'll choose 2,000 megahertz bandwidth. Antennas, you can choose 12-inch or 24-inch antenna. You can also have different antenna sizes for each side, and then you can choose your polarization. You can either be vertical or horizontal. Transmit power automatically goes to the highest transmit power, but you could actually use a lower transmit power if you want to penalize, or you might have not so much in the U.S., but sometimes in Europe, you might be forced to use a lower transmit power, for some links, and then you could choose to add some extra losses as well, and then it automatically calculates the availability. So in this case, this is, if I go back up, this was a 1.25 mile link in Boulder, and availability is 4 nines. And then the annual rain rate is like 46 minutes where you'll lose your traffic. Now, if you're going to switch it to, let's say we'll switch it to New York State or New York City. And so you'll do your search, and this connects to Google Maps, so there will actually be a map view as well. And so it's found in New York City, and then automatically plugs in the rain region. You can also force a rain rate. So if you want to be more pessimistic for your region or less pessimistic, we always would caution to be conservative and not to be overly optimistic. And then at 1.25 miles, the availability drops to almost 4.9, so 99.98%. So it's a little bit below what we'd recommend, but it's still a viable link. If you go to 1 mile, so we'll just switch it out. And now we're back to almost, actually it's still 4 nines. It's 99.989%.
Yeah.
Which is hair away from 5 nines actually.
So that RSL test point voltage, that's when we put the radios up, that's what we would expect for the optimal pointing, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
And as I mentioned, we have really excellent technical support. We have these field engineers who know these systems in and out and know, not just like on paper, but in terms of how customers use systems and real world situations. And so when our customers are trying to deploy links and they have issues or they see problems that are unexpected, they can contact us. We can run the paths. We can use path loss if the customer doesn't have path loss and get a more accurate modeling of the link, and we can help guide in terms of finding that best solution. So I had mentioned monopoles before. We do have obviously we have successful monopole installations. You just have to understand what it means to be on a monopole, for example, and so we have guys who have that experience and who can guide customers in those type of problems.
And because this is a pencil width beam, you could thread the needle, so to speak, between buildings if you were in a metropolitan area, correct?
Oh, for sure. I mean, the beam itself, I think the 10,000 is 0.4 degrees with a 2-foot dish, or 0.8 degrees. It's a very tight beam, and you're not going very far typically. Right. So yeah, you can point these systems quite effectively. We like with each radio also we ship it with a quick start guide, and we have some instructions to the installers on how to point the dishes. So what you have to kind of be careful about is there's both like the middle or the center of the beam, which is of course the highest power, but then you have two side lobes, and you don't want when you're installing, you don't want to get caught thinking that you're on the center beam and instead you're actually on the side beam. Mm-hmm. So if you're on the side beam or side lobe, to be more correct, and you're trying to align on a side lobe, that's not a good idea.
No, absolutely.
Yep. Alrighty. Well, Bridgewave, excellent job. I'm looking forward to hopefully selling some of your equipment and getting in there and configuring them, but we'll see how that works out. I do not have any questions on our chat. I'm just checking to see if we have any. No, we don't. We have lots of views. Thank you for viewing. However, we do not have any questions that I have. I think everything's good.
Yeah, I think we had a great show. I want to thank Hesham with Bridgewave, going to be at Wispapalooza, where you can put your hands on this and see it in operation, I think, right?
Yeah, at Wispapalooza we'll have the radios there, both this one and also the new microwave radio as well.
Oh, good. Well, excellent. I want to thank you for being on the show, and we look forward to talking to you on the 25th. Dennis, you want to wrap us up?
Yes, sir. Don't forget, next week we do have a radio show. I do need to look it up and find out what it is because I forgot it already. Here it is. It is Preseam's Service QoE. That is going to be next week's show. And then we do have Bridgewave scheduled back on October 25th. We will not have a show the week of the 13th.
Wispapalooza.
Yeah, the week.
We'll have a follow-up show the week after.
Yeah, and then actually the 25th. We need to talk about that, but during the week, the show we will not have a broadcast, and then the following week after that we should, and then we will continue on. So with that said, we will wrap us up.
Thank you for listening to ISP Radio. We hope you've gained new insights and additional wisdom in our industry as well as your business. Please remember to visit our show sponsors via the links on ispradio.com. If you're interested in becoming a show sponsor, contact us at sales@ispradio.com. Now go out there and push those packets as fast as you can. Good luck and Godspeed.